Well, live from Moore Gymnasium on the campus of Bethune-Cookman University in downtown Daytona Beach, Florida. Today's broadcast of Bethune-Cookman University Athletics on the CatEye Network is on the air. Hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Michael Turillo. Happy to have your company as we play the final game of the 2023 Bash at the Beach season opening volleyball tournament. It's a rematch of yesterday's game featuring the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats and the Marshall Thundering Herd. Yesterday, both of these teams played 2 games, both against each other and versus the Citadel. BCU went 0-2, falling in 3 sets to both Marshall and the Citadel, and Marshall fell to the Citadel yesterday morning before defeating Bethune-Cookman in 3 sets in the afternoon. Well, today I have with me former Division I coach and player Taylor Pritchett. Taylor, BCU obviously lost 2 matches yesterday, but we saw a lot of positives out of the Wildcats to begin the season.
Absolutely. The biggest thing that they can kind of hold on to and use the momentum moving forward into today is that going through the Marshall match, you could see that they were having some struggles. There were some technical difficulties that they were having with their play. Then that kind of spiraled into some mental hurdles that they needed to fight through, and it overall was kind of a rough match in the morning. They turned it around against the Citadel and really started to show that they were able to get their minds back into the game, refocus on kind of that present moment, that present point. And even though it didn't go their way, there was kind of the moral victory of showing themselves that they were able to move past that loss to the Herd and go forward into that Citadel match. So today, you're hoping that they kind of continue that forward and come back into this where they're attacking the Herd with the same kind of mental fortitude that they were able to develop yesterday.
The Wildcats, unfortunately, have been bit hard by the injury bug early on in this season and will be without Alicia Callender, Kaytal Price, and crucially, libero Essence Bell, who went down with an ankle injury in last night's nightcap against the Citadel. Without 3 of those big upper-class pieces, it's going to be up to some of the underclassmen to step up. Who do you want to see come off the bench and make an impact today?
Very much so. I think you're going to see a lot out of Chloe Conover. She's a freshman coming in from Texas. She has done a lot for them, showed her colors in the scrimmage, the maroon and gold scrimmage, and really kind of came into her own yesterday. She was really effective. She took 39 attempts, had 10 kills, had the 3rd most kills on the day yesterday. So I think she'll be able to really step up and step in.
That's not the only injury problems that the Wildcats are facing. Also, Mecca Freeman is not dressed today after playing both matches yesterday. And also freshman Mia Delahousse did not play yesterday. We do not know her status. And now for the starting lineups, here's BCU Public Address announcer Larry Steele. So there you have it, starting lineups on the floor. We are moments away from getting this game underway. Third game of the weekend for both of these teams. 2 yesterday, 1 today. We finish off the 2023 Bash at the Beach before both of these teams hit the road again. Actually, Marshall will host Morehead State, UNC Greensboro, Akron, and Coppin State at their own multi-team event next week. The Wildcats hit the road. They do not return until the 22nd of next month when they start SWAC play. An important launching pad today for the Wildcats as they begin their long road trip in non-conference play.
Very much so. The team is going to have to figure out how they want to battle through some fatigue. You know, preseason tournaments are really tough. You're playing a lot of matches in a very short period of time, but it's something that you've got to be prepared for, because once you get into the SWAC cluster, or more crucially into the conference tournament, that's where you're getting into those 3 matches in 3 days that are the most important ones you're going to play.
Marshall in the green with black trim. Bethune-Cookman in the white with maroon shoulders, gold trim, and black pants. Starting at libero today in place of Essence Bell is going to be the freshman Riley Davis. Big step-up moment for her, obviously, last night when she had to go put on the libero jersey in the middle of the 3rd set and come into the game, and she gets the start today.
Absolutely, and she stepped up well when she came in yesterday. I mean, she had 2.5 digs per set. That's, you know, what you hope for someone to come in and really be able to step on and do when they're putting on that libero jersey.
Fourth and final match of the weekend inside Moore Gymnasium. Marshall will serve first. Bryn Brown with the service. Janine De Jesus back for A.J. Simmons. Marshall keeps the play alive and then fires it out of play. BCU on the board first. And the first set yesterday against Marshall was probably BCU's best volleyball of the day.
Absolutely. They jumped out to that quick early lead. You want to see them, you know, push from the beginning like they do. It's something that's kind of a staple of their style of play, is that they can come out early, but you've got to be able to hold on to the engagement while you're going through the rest of the match. So it'll be really interesting to see how they do, if they get off to a good start, and what that start is going to look like.
Marshall quickly ties the game back up with a middle attack. Here's Jasmine Parrish with the serve. Jasmine Moore off the libero and off the back wall. BCU with a 2-1 lead. We saw Jasmine Moore a lot yesterday as the primary attacker on the outside. We saw a lot of times Moore go for these impressive heavy swings and miss long. That time she got the deflection off of the libero, Bria Samilton. Here's Riley Davis. Marshall chooses to keep the ball in play and misses long again. 2 times an attack error for the Herd early on.
And that serve is really what set that up for BCU to win the point. You saw that ball go high and deep, and the Herd take that pass with their hands. That's actually statistically the worst way that you can try to pass a ball. This is a fantastic start for them to get into.
Look out, there's Nyara Hightower, solo block for her. She is the solo block queen on this team. A dominating presence in the middle at 6'2". This will be a free ball for BCU after the serve was pushed back over the net. Hightower is in the net, and it's going to be a free point for Marshall.
Looks like De Jesus had plenty of time to get under that, and sometimes as a setter, your brain is moving so fast. When you have that amount of time, you just kind of end up fumbling the ball a little bit. So we'll see how she recovers from that.
Service goes long. BCU gets the 5-2 lead. A little bit of a nervy start for Marshall. You're away from home, you're tired. This is your 3rd game in 2 days, and against a team that started well against you yesterday.
And playing the same team twice is back to back is a little bit of an interesting concept for volleyball. It's not often that you have double headers like in baseball or basketball. I believe Marshall and their conference actually does do that, so it's something that Marshall will need to kind of figure out. But it's definitely a little bit out of the ordinary for most athletes.
Melina Spencer on the last kill took a little bit of pace off of it and found the middle of the floor. Spencer did not play against Marshall yesterday, and another receiving error from Marshall allows BCU to take a 7-2 lead. But back on Spencer, she came in for the second game against the Citadel and made a pretty good account of herself in that match. Absolutely.
It's good to see her back on the floor. She is really what allows BCU to run the type of offense that they want to run, which is a 6-2. That has them using 2 setters so that their setter is always in the back row, and they always have 3 hitters in the front row, rather than Marshall, you'll see, I believe, will run a 5-1, where at some point their setter will be in the front row and they will only have 2 hitters to work with.
And it's a different type of attack to defend against than we saw the Citadel last night. I'll expound on my point a little bit later. Hightower through the middle. Neal keeps it alive for the Thundering Herd, but tough set for BCU, and Spencer couldn't catch up with it. Marshall will take the point off the error. But last night against the Citadel, we basically saw their entire offense run through one setter. That's not going to be the case today. We currently see Lydia Montague in that setter position, but we will also see Peyton Neal and Kylie Stokes go down there.
Mm-hmm.
Marshall has dragged it back for the 2-point swing. It's 7-5, Bethune-Cookman. Here's Jasmine Moore between the block and down.
And Jasmine Moore is really a power player. She's the one that you kind of want to rely on in those tough swing situations where, you know, the setter took that with her platform. The whole gym knows that she's going to have to set it to Jasmine. So the block is going to be really well formed in front of her, but she's got such a strong arm that she can just kind of beat it through.
Moore also an impressive server of the ball. Nice solo block by Hightower. Marshall keeps it alive, but gives a free service over to BCU. Hit through the middle. Hightower in there. It doesn't matter if you hit the line by a quarter of an inch. It's in regardless.
Absolutely.
Head coach Brittany Williams has her team out and ready to play today. Marshall responds back through the middle through Lydia Montague.
And this is where you're seeing Marshall use Bryn Brown as another hitter. So she's their setter right now. She's in the front row. And technically Lydia Montague and Jasmine Parrish are the only actual attackers. However, Bryn Brown is a left-handed setter. So she will take a big jump and actually hit the ball on the second contact, which is why when she jumps, Niara Hightower has to jump with her and be prepared for that attack.
Right to the feet of Riley Davis, and Marshall keeps this one a 2-point game, 9-7 BCU. Yesterday, Montague against BCU had 7 kills and 6 blocks, while Brown recorded a match-high 31 assists. Again, BCU in the net. And timeout. Bethune-Cookman as their lead, which has been as many as 5, has dwindled to just 1, 9-8 here, about halfway through this opening set of play. Nike is the official outfitter of the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. Gear up on the newest BCU Nike gear at nike.com/Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. We mentioned that really long road trip coming up for Bethune-Cookman. They play Appalachian State, East Carolina, Campbell, Youngstown State, Incarnate Word, Florida Atlantic, Georgia Southern, and Mercer before finally coming home on the 22nd of September to start SWAC play. What does a long road trip like that how to do to your psyche as a team early on in the season?
Well, it does a couple of things. It gives you an opportunity to get out and, you know, when you're an athlete, you kind of look at it like you become a professional. You're away from school. but you're still there doing your homework. You're with your team. You're playing your matches. You have practices. So you almost become a professional athlete at that point. You can really zero everything into the team. And that was kind of the blessing in disguise last year when the team was on the road for so long with Hurricane Ian. They were able to really kind of work through some of the cohesiveness that they needed, and that was, I think, a spark that helped them make their run through the end of conference play. So I think as they go onto these road trips, you know, coming through the end of the preseason, it's really going to help them to gel together and figure out who they are as a cohesive unit rather than just as individual athletes.
And there is, unlike last year, a light at the end of the tunnel for that road trip. They get 8 SWAC games here at Moore Gymnasium with 2 of those SWAC clusters at home. So they're not just on the road for the entire season, except for maybe 3 or 4 games late on. 9-8, VCU leads it here in the opening set. Back set, Jasmine Moore finds the floor. And that's one of the interesting things that I love to watch about setters is they have so many options when the ball is played to them in the middle.
Exactly, and that's a key point for the passers and defenders. You want to make sure that you put the ball in the middle of the court so that you give the setter all of those options. If you move her too far to the left or right, if you move her too tight or too far off, that's when you take those options away from her.
Very efficient hitting from the Marshall team. They keep swinging the possession back and forth.
And that, again, was Bryn Brown using her offensive left hand to make Alyssa King jump with her. So once she set that ball to the outside, Jasmine Parrish only had one blocker in front of her.
Service too long from Bria Samilton, the junior from Phoenix, Arizona, transfer from Ole Miss. Was a part of Ole Miss's NCAA tournament appearance back in 2021. So she's played at the highest level. As has Kylie Stokes, who transferred in from Utah State. Stokes not on the floor right now, but she is the top hitter on this Marshall team. Through the middle, dug out by Moore on the back row. It'll have to be a free hit from Davis. And Marshall responds. It seems like the last 10 points or so have just been one apiece, back and forth. Nobody can really get a run going.
Absolutely, and it's really kind of coming down to unforced errors. Marshall is kind of shooting themselves in the foot a lot with their missed serves. Now is when, though, the Wildcats really need to take advantage of Bryn Brown being in the back row and them being in a more comfortable position, something that they're more used to seeing in their own gym, which is 3 hitters across the front and not necessarily having to worry about that second contact setter attack.
There's the first kill of the match for Chloe Conover, the freshman getting the start today. Off the tape and down. Sometimes, we talked about this a lot yesterday, Taylor, sometimes it goes off the net and lands on the other side, and sometimes it goes off the net and lands on your side, and it's very tough to kind of play that tape on the serve.
Exactly. You just want to send over a flat, clean serve and make sure that you're putting that ball where it goes. If it hits the tape, then you hope that it goes your way.
Dug up into the ceiling. VCU keeps it alive. Davis just has to tamely play it over. Back set, and a solo block for Jasmine Moore, denying Kylie Stokes at the net.
That was a great job by Jasmine Moore of making sure that she found her hitter. She was the only blocker over there, and she dove into that seam and really took it away.
Boston with the service, that time can't clip it over. And you could tell she was going for the exact same play off the tape and down.
Yep.
VCU with a 3-point lead here, 14-11 in set number 1. DeJesus across. Moore off the block into the middle. Jasmine Moore is coming out and playing with a lot more aggressiveness than she had last night. Really?
And I think part of the reason that they're able to really use Jasmine Moore as effectively as they are right now is that the setters are also really working with their middles and right sides. The more evenly balanced your offense is, the more unpredictable you are as a setter, so the longer that opposing block has to wait and react to the ball.
Another service error, this time on the Bethune-Cookman side. You can kind of tell it's early, noon start after a long weekend. Down the line, out. Very close. I believe that was Simmons that attacked it.
Yeah, that's a tough swing. She came around for that slide and just kind of kept the ball in the same direction as her approach and took it just outside the line.
2-point swing for Marshall. Service goes short, and it finds the floor as first contact by Nyara Hightower sends it away from Janine DeJesus. Hurd not going away, have lowered the gap to 1. And that time, Parrish went for the exact same play and put it in the net. So we've seen that twice now where each team has gotten a good result off of a soft serve, tried the exact same thing, and then hit the net.
You start to play a little bit of a strategic game. You know, if it works once, you try to hit it again. But there are some philosophies that say you want to actually get safer with your serve the more times you do it, because you're more likely to be dealing with the psychological fortitude of the opponent.
Moore, drop shot, kept alive by Brown. On the other side, Davis, and then it hits the ceiling and hits right back towards Davis.
And that's a tough one because Davis was ready to go in and ready to make that play. And, you know, you kind of expect that your libero will be the one to make it, but she had made the last contact. If she were to touch it again, it would be a double touch and illegal. So she was hoping that another of her teammates would step in and take the ball.
That's one of those plays when you're in an arena not named Moore Gymnasium, you probably have a chance to win that point, as BCU did there. Unfortunately, Spencer hit that log.
And this is what we're kind of seeing. This is what we're used to seeing from the Wildcats, is that they jump out to a fantastic start and then almost start to second guess how well they're playing and start to play a little bit less clean, a little bit less technical. So we'll see if they can bring this one back and get back into the rhythm and flow that they were in at the beginning of the match.
In-system play and a soft touch from Montague, originally from Lehigh, Utah, and a transfer from the junior college level at Snow College. Spencer just has to touch this one over. Far side blocked. Jasmine Moore again. And she has had Kylie Stokes' number early on in this contest. 17 apiece. Moore with the serve. Samilton. Set by Brown. Montague through the fingers of Hightower. So when you get bounces like that off of block, what can the blocker do to make sure that next time that situation happens, the ball goes the other way?
So it looked like there was a little bit of a hesitation on Hightower's part. She wasn't quite sure whether the ball was going to go to the outside or to the middle. And she didn't know if Bryn Brown was going to jump up and take that kind of a swing on the second contact. So they're having a little bit of difficulty with their eye work right now, making sure that they're reading the pass early and understanding what the setter wants to do in that scenario. I think getting back to her eye work of watching the ball, then the setter, then the ball, then the hitter, that will really help her and help the rest of the blockers to kind of shore up their hands and shore up their blocking. 3-point
lead for Marshall now after a service ace from the freshman Sarah Wadsworth, and Coach Williams calls her second timeout of the set. This is a mirror image of set one in the last game where Bethune-Cookman jumped out to a nice lead early on. Marshall got back into it and kind of took command in the late teens, early 20s. Of course, that first set yesterday, BCU came back to force overtime but could not get it done. Make sure you are representing Bethune-Cookman University Athletics to the fullest. Buy the latest BCU gear online at the Bethune-Cookman online store. Go to bcuathletics.com and click on Shop to find the newest BCU clothing and apparel. That's bcuathletics.com and click on Shop. So timeout strategy is interesting in volleyball. It's similar to basketball as in when you want to take your timeouts to either settle your team down or break an opponent's rhythm, as we've seen Coach Williams do. What do you think Coach Williams is saying to her team during this timeout?
I think she's talking a lot about just kind of coming back into themselves. We're watching the Wildcats really start to chase the Herd. They were blocking with Bryn Brown. This is kind of just an example of it, but they were blocking with Bryn Brown when she would jump early and she was setting away from it. That very last kill that she got, they didn't jump because they were expecting that she was going to set their opponent, and now they're kind of stuck chasing their tail. So I believe that she's probably talking to them about, let's pick one thing that we are going to make sure that we defend. We're going to defend it very well, and if the other team goes outside of that, then that's okay. We'll let that be, and we'll decide if we need to make a switch later. But you have to defend one thing well now so that we can kind of get our feet back under ourselves and get back into a rhythm.
20-17, three-point lead for Marshall is their biggest of the first set. First contact goes very wide and forces a tame play over from Davis. Jasmine Parrish blocked at the net. VCU with a chance with Spencer. Wadsworth keeps it alive. Dump to the middle and down. Lydia Monte continuing to be a nuisance in the middle. 4-point lead for Marshall.
And this is again where you're kind of watching, you know, players start to play outside of their position. They're worried about other things, and so they're not prepared when their time and their role, their responsibility comes around.
Two Marshall players ran into each other, but it didn't matter because Peyton Neal, the freshman, with a left hand rocket down the middle, it barely clipped inside the line. The Herd racing towards a set one victory here, 22-17. Through the middle, Hightower from Coates. Conover into the pin. Five straight for Marshall. Coates into the net, 6 straight for Marshall. And now they're one away from set number 1. Long run for Coates, but eventually Chloe Conover finds the kill. And the Wildcats break the run, but have a lot of work to do in this first set.
And what they have to do now is just keep chipping away. Even if you don't have the opportunity to win this set, you have to get your feet back under you moving into the next one. It's always better to end on a high note, even if you don't necessarily get the outcome that you want.
That's the end of set number 1 as Naira Hightower's serve goes long. 1-0 Marshall. And we're going to sound like broken records here, Taylor. It was close until it wasn't.
Exactly. You start to almost see the Wildcats kind of play it safe, and that's something that you talk about as coaches, is that playing it safe never actually is. That's not how you train. When you're training, when you're practicing every day, you're getting after it. You're trying to, make the shots. You're trying to swing with range. You're trying to swing with power. You're trying to serve the other team off the court. So there's really no points in which you practice being safe and just keeping the ball in. Once you get into a match, if you start to go at it with that mentality, you're essentially playing a brand new game. You're using a brand new skill. So that's something that, they're going to need to figure out kind of what they want to do from a strategic standpoint, from how firmly they want to attack their opponent and get back into the things that they're used to doing and the style of play that they're used to playing.
30-second commercial break. You're listening to Bethune-Cookman University Athletics on the CatEye Network.
Better every day, okay?
Here's the bell tie snap, hand off to Robinson on a draw, straight up the middle. Nobody touches Jimmy Robinson as he rumbles into the end zone. Touchdown, Bethune-Cookman.
Here we snap on your commercial station for Wildcat Sports, WELO on your iPhone streaming at WELO.com.
Michael Camillo, Taylor Pritchett back at Moore Gymnasium for Bethune-Cookman's third and final volleyball game of the weekend here at the Bash at the Beach season opening multi-team event. And I've watched Bethune-Cookman get into their huddle in the middle of the set, or between sets rather, and Coach Williams was over at the scores table talking to our SIDs about something, and Janine DeJesus and Mecca Freeman just started the conversation. Two of the upperclassmen on this team really kind of trying to lead by example, even though Mecca is out with an injury today, trying to continue to make sure her team is in the right mental space to continue this game.
And a philosophy that you hear a lot from the coaching staff is that player-run teams are always the most effective. You know, you can have your coaches say everything they want. You can have them yell until they're blue in the face. But if the players aren't kind of policing themselves and talking to each other about how they're able to, you know, bring their strategy and their fire back into this match, then you're not going to be successful. So it's great to see DeJesus and Freeman really kind of getting into their teammates and saying, hey guys, this isn't who we are, this isn't what we want to do. Let's go out and be the team that we know that we can be.
Couple of first set stats for you. Hitting percentage for Marshall is .318. Bethune-Cookman not shabby at a .227. Marshall has 12 assists to BCU's 8 and 12 kills to BCU's 8. Marshall, however, has committed 5 errors to BCU's 3. And 4 total blocks for Bethune-Cookman, just 1 for Marshall in that first set. Bethune-Cookman continuing to do what they do best, be strong at the net. Wildcats in the white and maroon, trimmed in gold, now on the left side of your screen. Marshall in the green with black trim. Madison Coates serves to start set number 2 and serves it long, so set 2 begins exactly how set 1 ended.
And that's a tough miss, but at least you could see that she was getting after it. She was trying to go down that line. She served a flat, clean serve. It just happened to miss long. So from a mental standpoint, that's still okay.
Conover keeps it in play. This is going to have to be a very tame hit from Davis. In system for Marshall to the outside, and Conover can't keep that one alive. 2-0 Thundering Herd early. That was Kylie Stokes, the team leader in kills yesterday. That was her second kill of the match. Spencer off the block. BCU responds. When you're going for a hit like that, and you see that there's going to be 2 people blocking, is it a strategy to maybe try and aim for the outside of their hands so it deflects away?
100% it is. You'll see players, you know, develop a high hand shot, and they are actually aiming for their hands, but hoping that it goes out of bounds and makes it unplayable once it touches the other team.
Another service error for BCU gives Marshall a 3-1 lead. Coates loses out at the joust at the net as the first contact went back over. I think they're going to credit Lydia Montague, with the last touch.
And there you saw Madison Coates kind of go up. She wasn't really, you know, turning and trying to get in that block. That's because she's a back row player right now. So if she were to contact the ball in front of the 10-foot line, it has to be below the height of the net. If any part of the ball is in the plane of the net, then she would be considered a back row attacker.
First hitting error of the set for Marshall. Lydia Montague, 3 kills on 3 attacks, batting 1,000 early on in set number 2. As the Thundering Herd are up 4-2. Wadsworth with the early receive, and that's a tough play for the BCU defense as that ball hit the top of the net. Montague continues to bat 1,000.
And again, this is where we're kind of watching them chase their tails. You know, they're not quite sure who they need to focus on, what they need to focus on. So at this point, you start to go back to what is our default volleyball. Let's just make sure that we're taking away the volume hitter. We're trying to play the game in a way that puts us in a good spot for the biggest percentage of points to go our way. And then, you know, you kind of continue from there and hope that it starts to work out in your favor.
Davis sets up Coates back to the middle. Spencer too long, and something that has changed from the beginning of the first set to now is the first contact for BCU defensively. It seems to have gone more towards the outside.
Absolutely. The first contact is really where you're going to win or lose this game. So there's a stat that says that if you win serving and passing, if you serve better and pass better than your opponent, then you're going to win 86% of the time. And it doesn't matter what the rest of the stats are. You could hit worse, you could block worse, you could dig worse. But if you serve and pass better in 100 games, you'll be 86-14. That is where they really need to focus their energies right now, is on shoring up their serves and their passes.
Another hit that goes long, that time from Conover, gives the Thundering Herd an 8-2 lead. Back row attack blocked at the net by Lydia Montague.
And the reason that those passes are such a big deal is because that is what gives the setter their options. We had mentioned before that the more evenly balanced a setter can be, the more evenly balanced those their distribution of sets can be, the more unpredictable they are. And that is what makes defenses have to work hard to actually go and make those plays. But when you have bad passes, it starts to pigeonhole that setter into setting a specific person, and the other team knows exactly where it's going. They're able to set up early, and they're able to get their own good first contact, so that their setter is able to, be unpredictable.
Stay up to date with everything Bethune-Cookman Athletics by checking out the Wildcats on social media. Give BCU Athletics a like on Facebook and follow the Wildcats on Twitter and Instagram at BCU_athletics. For the latest on BCU Volleyball, follow at BCU Volleyball on Twitter and Instagram. The best media team in the SWAC, putting out content behind the scenes constantly. You want to be following all of those social media handles. Assistant coach James Goodrich right now, the entire time during that timeout, has been talking to Riley Davis about exactly what we were talking about before Coach Williams took that timeout. First contact, setting up the passes immediately.
Yep, and right now he's coaching very technically. You know, you see Riley Davis, and it looks like they were talking about Riley Davis was kind of pulling her platform away from the ball. So sometimes you think that, this ball is coming fast at me. I want to absorb some of the force that's coming into my platform. The problem with that is that it changes the angle that your platform is at, and so it tells the ball to go in a different direction. You want to put an angle out that you know is going to send that ball to the center of the court so that the setter has her options, and leave it there so that you're able to just give the ball the information that it needs.
Montague rejected by Conover. The block continues to be BCU's best weapon in this contest. I think that, but unfortunately, I couldn't see from our angle, the ball fell on the BCU side of the net. It didn't look to me like it did.
May have.
10-2 Marshall, now 10-3, as the Thundering Herd tried to be a little bit too cute there and played it into their own net off the pass.
Yep. And now you get a couple of substitutions in. That's the other thing about a 6-2 is that you're going to rotate and at some point get a little bit of kind of new fire, new energy, people that haven't been on the court for the struggles in getting to this 10-3 mark. So you hope to see that they kind of come out and really start to provide a little bit of fire to the Wildcats.
Again, first contact goes wide. Marshall takes an 11-3 lead. This game really is exactly mirroring what happened in yesterday's game. First set, very close. Second set, Marshall begins to pull away. Over on the second contact. Set up for Parrish. Again over on the first contact. And Marshall's going to take the point. I believe BCU was in the net.
Yep, it looked like Niara Hightower tried to recover to Bryn Brown, making that left-handed attack on the second contact, and just didn't quite have her feet underneath her and ended up contacting the net.
Bethune-Cookman finally is going to get a side out as Sarah Wadsworth's serve goes into the net. Wadsworth is interesting, a freshman from Arizona. Her father, Andre, played college football at Florida State and was drafted 3rd overall in the 90s to the Arizona Cardinals. Hightower couldn't direct that one back across. Score stands at 13-4 Marshall here in set number 2.
And there you saw Niara Hightower kind of reached her hands over into that seam rather than making sure that her feet got all the way there, and she directed her hands back into 6. So when the ball hit her hands, that angle was pointed out of bounds.
Finally, a bit of a tough play for Marshall. It gets to the net. Parrish can only play it over tamely. Spencer to the back row. Wadsworth controls it. Parrish again off the hands and out. And that's what you said, Taylor, about that high hand attack.
Exactly. That's something that a lot of hitters really work hard to develop because it's very, very difficult to defend. You're dug in, you're ready for this powerful swing, and then it ends up just going high over your head and feet out of the court.
DeJesus close to the net. We're going to have a net infraction and a point for Marshall. You talked about this a little bit yesterday about setting up your setter not so close to the net so they have options.
Exactly. As a passer, I'm hoping to put my setter 5 to 8 feet off the net and just right of the center of the court. That gives me the biggest margin of error. If I'm aiming for that kind of center bullseye, if I miss a little bit tight, we're still okay. If I miss a little bit off, we're still okay. So you're hoping to get her into that, just right of the center of the court, 5 to 8 feet off the net, and that is your ideal pass.
Couple of scrambles for both sides. The attack goes Marshall's way, and Essence Clerkley puts it down. Her first kill of the match. Haven't talked about the graduate student from Palestine, Texas, and a transfer from Division II powerhouse Blinn College. DeJesus, Spencer, taps it low and gets the point. And the Wildcats continue to be most effective on the offensive side when they go to those off-speed attacks.
That's where they're forcing Marshall to play the ball. We've seen a lot of unforced errors, a lot of times that they're hitting the ball in the net or out of bounds. And if you do that, Marshall doesn't have to show that they have the skill to hang with this team. If you put it in the court, if you force them to play the ball, they have to show that they have the skill to do that.
Pure power from Jasmine Parrish. Sydney Poston couldn't handle it. 17-5 our score in set number 2. Bryn Brown, the team's leader in assists a season ago, to serve. That time, BCU tries the power. Samilton keeps it alive, but forces a free play for BCU. Simmons with the hit. Parrish back the other way, and it's out. And we're seeing a lot of BCU points come after Marshall errors rather than VCU attacks.
Absolutely, and that's something that Coach Williams and Coach Goodridge are going to make sure that they're talking to their team about. You take a look at how many points you actually scored versus how many points ended up on the
that ball came right up here, literally landed at my feet after ricocheting off the court.
It was a powerful swing for sure.
17-7. Marshall in the set. Now 17-8 as Melina Spencer denies Parrish. First 3-point plus run of the set for BCU. Coach to serve. Parrish plays it well across court. It's going to have to be a center drop-off. Cross Moore off the hands kept in play. Brown tips it to Clerkley, who finds the soft center of the middle. And it seems that drop shot has been available for both teams in this match.
And that's kind of a function of both teams have some very big power hitters. You dig in, you get prepared for that swing to come at you fast. And then if you just drop that tip right over the block, it's difficult to kind of come out of that deep squat and actually get on your horse and run it down.
Clerkley, crosser body, and Poston got to it but couldn't direct it back towards the net. It's been a trial by fire this weekend for the freshman Sydney Poston. We've been playing in that defensive specialist spot.
Yep. And that's something that, it's always interesting to see how freshmen respond to the kind of initial shock of, oh, wow, I'm in college, I'm playing this game at a faster level. How am I going to respond to this new style of volleyball? Because while they've been in preseason for a couple of weeks now, it's different to have another team across the net and know that there is no end to this other than a win or a loss.
20-8 the score in set number 2. Spencer had to hang in the air for a long time, took a little power off of it, and then tried to recover at the net and just pushed it out of bounds. The Thundering Herd are getting set for their second season in the Sun Belt. Spencer powers it into the Marshall bench and out of play, 22-8. Moved from Conference USA to the Sun Belt in 2022, and it was a big step up in competition. You've got your James Madisons, your Appalachian States, your Coastal Carolinas in the Sun Belt. VCU takes a point back.
Definitely some very strong competition, and that's why it's fantastic that, you know, VCU is getting to see this this Marshall team this early in the season. They're really getting to kind of take a look at themselves and see how they're matching up to a team of this caliber.
Picked to finish 6th in the Sun Belt's Eastern Division were the Thundering Herd. Davis recovers and plays it softly over the net. Brown middle set. Back row attack goes well out of play from Conover. And 2 points away from a set victory are Marshall. And then a service error from Essence Clerkley. 5 service errors on each side through almost 2 sets in this match.
And that's tough. You know, the Wildcats are going to be able to look at that and say, we were kind of serving on par with the other team. There are just so many more unforced errors from the attacking side of things that the score ends up getting a little lopsided. Another
Hightower rejection to win a point back for Bethune-Cookman. Score still stands at 23-11 here in set number 2. Davis with that low, flat serve. Hightower jousts at the net. The ball ends up on VCU's side of the court. It has to go over from Coates. Soft underhand swing from Montague. Back row attack from Moore, blocked. 1, 2, and down as it was a scramble on VCU's side of the court. Set point now for the Thundering Herd. Hightower and Montague kind of have their own little personal battle going on in the middle today.
Absolutely. That's something that you see between middles is, you know, they'll kind of try to go 1 for 1 and see who can get the best out of their position. And that's something that every individual player kind of ends up doing is
the ball hangs up in the ceiling and Davis can't catch up to it. Marshall takes set number 2. 25-11. VCU had a little bit of a bright spot in the middle of the set, ran off 4 straight, but they will head to the locker room for a 5-minute break, down 2 sets to love. We'll take 30 seconds and be right back. This is Bethune-Cookman University Volleyball on the CatEye Network.
It's a celebration.
Michael Toretto and Taylor Pritchett back at Moore Gymnasium. The Marshall Thundering Herd are 2 sets to the good over the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats in the final game of the 2023 Bash at the Beach as we open up the 2023 volleyball season. Let's take a look around this WAC and see what some of the other teams are having to contend with early on in the season. Mississippi Valley State plays 2 games today against the University of Alabama. That game going on right now, and later against Mercer. Florida A&M is against Austin Peay. Grambling State playing at UTEP. Prairie View at Northern Arizona, and Texas Southern at Missouri State. Mississippi Valley tomorrow plays St. Louis University. Florida A&M gets Buffalo. Arkansas Pine Bluff gets both Tarleton and Northern Arizona. Alabama State gets Indiana State, Jackson State at South Alabama, and then Alabama State rounds out the weekend against Xavier. So all the SWAC schools really kind of playing above their level, trying to play some of these better mid-major or sub-high major programs like we saw with Alabama to start the season and just kind of measure up where they are early on.
Exactly. That's something that you hope to do with your first weekend, especially because you know that, you haven't had a whole lot of time to really install your systems to really become a cohesive unit yet. So to figure out where you're at is a great opportunity for you then to turn around and practice this next week and know what you need to work on in order to get better.
VCU down 2 sets to love, but I think have played better overall today than they did yesterday against Marshall, especially in the second set where they just got kind of run out of the gym yesterday.
They're playing with a little bit more fire, which is good to see, but they're just missing it technically right now. There's a lot of unforced errors, a lot of attacks that are going in the net and out of bounds, and it really just kind of shoots yourself in the foot. Like I was saying before, you don't have the opportunity to make Marshall show whether or not they can actually handle your skills. So you want to make sure that you're putting the ball in the court, you're putting the ball on them, and making Marshall make the plays rather than kind of giving them the out of this unforced error.
Come be a part of VCU Athletics and support the CatEye Network. If you or your business is interested in partnering with us here on the CatEye Network, you can reach out to the Wildcats Athletic Communications Department at bcusportsinfo@cookman.edu. And I mentioned some of the other SWAC schools like Mississippi Valley, FAMU, Alabama State that are going to be kind of up there in the SWAC this season. Last season, obviously, FAMU kind of came into the SWAC and really took it by storm as a new team in the league. They are number one in the league. VCU picked 4th. Between them, Alabama State is up there. Jackson State is also up there. How do you kind of see the SWAC shaking out after we get into conference play next month?
I mean, I haven't seen much of the new players at, FAM or Alabama State or Jackson State, but based off of kind of what happened last year, I think VCU should be right in the mix there. FAMU is a fantastic program. Alabama State has a fantastic program as well. I mean, everyone is really kind of raising their level and making sure that they're ready to compete on a national stage and not just the SWAC stage. So it'll definitely be some tight matches and some really interesting matches as we go throughout the year. But I think that the Wildcats, especially once they, get some players back, they figure out who they are as a team, they really grow and start to kind of become a cohesive unit. I think they're really going to be able to compete well with the top of the SWAC.
Again, picked to finish 4th in the SWAC. And the early run-in is not kind. Their first SWAC cluster at home, they get Alabama A&M and Mississippi Valley State, who are picked the bottom 2 teams in the SWAC, but they also get Alabama State and Jackson State, who are 2 of the 3 teams ahead of them. So that weekend is really going to be a big learning curve, but also they're going to figure out where they stand pretty early on in conference play. That is a month away, though. Right now, it's the 3rd set between the Marshall Thundering Herd and the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. Marshall with a 2-0 lead. Coates across to Melina Spencer, who gets the Wildcats off to a fast start in this 3rd set. That was Spencer's 3rd kill of the match. Here is Essence Clerkley, blocked but straight to Jasmine Parrish. Coates dives to keep it alive. Spencer tried to play it over, but ended up just playing it into the twine. And it's 1-1. Spencer and Jasmine Moore, 4 kills apiece for the Wildcats. Coates to the middle and just out.
And that's where we talk about something called court awareness. So Madison Coates got pushed forward into that 3 gap, and as Alyssa King was coming around, she kind of kept that swing with the angle of her approach and the angle of her shoulders. You want to know that you've already been pushed closer to that sideline and you don't have as much court space to work with in that direction anymore.
I'm not sure how Marshall kept that alive. It looked like it came off a knee in the middle.
Sometimes you take what you got.
Spencer pushes it over. It's going to be a back row attack. Conover pushes it towards the sideline. BCU gets it back. Double pass. Back to Conover. Blocked by Kylie Stokes.
And it looks like BCU has made a change at libero. Freshman Sydney Poston is stepping in for Riley Davis. They're trying to see if they can get their first contact in that pass short up a little bit.
And again, we don't know how long Essence Bell is going to be out with that injury. Drop shot to the middle, into the net. And again, Marshall keeps it alive on a scramble. Spencer off the block, recovered by Samilton, and down through the arms of King. Second straight kill for Kylie Stokes.
And we kind of see the Wildcat blockers when their feet aren't quite there, they're reaching with their hands into the seam. That's a little bit of playing with fire, because as you come farther and farther outside of your shoulders rather than staying directly in front of yourself, you get weaker and weaker. So it makes it more likely that if that ball were to hit your hands, it's going to end up coming onto the same side of the net. What they want to do is really make sure that they're working to get their feet in front of their blocker, take that charge like in basketball, surround their arm, and put themselves in a really strong position so that when the ball hits their hands, it's going right back down on their floor.
Chloe Conover with a strong, powerful shot down the line to break a 4-point run for the Thundering Herd. Poston now to serve. The freshman from Chicago, Illinois. And into the net. Both teams 6 service errors on the game. And a 6-2 Marshall advantage. Set up across, Conover. Off the fingertips. Brown middle. Hightower says no.
And that was where you saw Hightower take that step with her feet and get her feet in front of Lydia Montague instead of reaching her hands over. And that's the result of your block.
AJ Simmons comes in, another freshman from Miami. Excuse me, she's a sophomore, not a freshman. Parrish recovers. Brown back set. And Kylie Stokes continues to be the primary attacker for this Marshall team. Had the most kills last night, is second most currently right now behind Montague with 6. She's got 5. DeJesus, drop to the middle. Austin recovers. DeJesus moves it back to her. Brown pushed across, off the fingertips of Simmons. Straight up in the air for Conover to attack. And it looked like Samilton kind of slipped in the back row while going for that ball.
Yeah, sometimes that'll happen. She may have also kind of been on her heels a little bit and needed to take a back step, and sometimes that'll just slide right out from under you. You want to be on your toes, ready to move forward so that that first step drives towards the ball.
Floated short, and it looks like Bethune-Cookman was completely caught off guard by that first contact going back over the net. Hightower couldn't catch up to it.
A little bit of a miscommunication there between the front and the back row.
Wadsworth to serve and gets the ace. Second of the game for Wadsworth. And in the middle, Lydia Montague throws BCU a piece of their own medicine. It was a 3-point gap Now it's a 6-point gap, and now it's a 5-point gap because Wadsworth put that one in the net. Service errors continue to be a problem on both sides. Hightower off of her wrist. A bit of an awkward serve. Parrish down the line. And the amount of just 3 hit points that Marshall has had, both in this game and yesterday, has kind of been the difference between these teams.
Absolutely. And, you know, Bryn Brown and her efficacy as a setter, as a very offensive setter, has been incredible for Marshall. She has really kind of opened up their offense and made it so that Bethune-Cookman is really struggling to figure out where they're blocking who and when. And that's really where that's opened up.
Well, stop me if you've heard this before. Another solo block for Bethune-Cookman, that time from Alyssa King, the transfer from UTEP. Only played 2 sets last year as a sophomore for the minors. Clerkley had to go all the way across her body to make contact with that one. Parrish gets a chance to play it short. Through the hands and down from Jasmine Moore. That was finally BCU getting back in system and getting a clean attack at the pin. Drop to the middle. And it was touched on its way out of bounds, so Marshall will get the point. An incredible dive.
It was a great recovery by the Herd.
Trying to figure out who that was. It was Peyton Neal, who now comes out. Coates, Conover, pushed ahead by Parrish. Parrish gets a second chance and is denied by Jasmine Moore. This is more blocks than I think Jasmine Moore kind of expected to get today. Only 33 last year. That's just about a third of a block per set.
She's putting herself in great positions, and as a blocker, that's kind of, you know, all you can do and all you can hope for. You put yourself in a good position and then wait for that hitter to attack your hands.
And tried to get it all on one swing and ended up playing the serve too long. BCU not going away, down by 5, 13-8 here in set number 3. Wadsworth, dug out by Conover, back to Chloe. Parrish can only deflect it into her own bench. She gets a 3rd hit on it, but that's going to be a 4th hit that goes over the nets. Marshall cannot recover from the scramble. And that just, if you're new to volleyball, there is no out of bounds.
Nope. Once you contact that ball, you are live and good to go.
We've seen players go into the seats. We've seen players go into benches, run up almost onto that stage behind the right hand. Basket. A wicked block through the middle as Hightower made contact but couldn't steer it in the right direction, and the gap remains 5. After this, Marshall will go home to Huntington, West Virginia and host their own multi-team event with Morehead State, UNC Greensboro, Akron, and Coppin State coming to town. First contact out of bounds. Marshall takes a 6-point lead, their largest of set number 3. A beautiful serve from Bria Samilton right at the feet of Poston. Timeout Bethune-Cookman, 16-9 Marshall.
And this is where you want to see the Wildcat players really talking to each other, figuring out what's going on and not giving up on the rest of this set. You know, you've got to make sure that you're really driving through and taking this opportunity to get better.
Advertise with Wildcat Nation. BCU Athletics is offering sponsorship opportunities across the CatEye Network. For more information, you can reach out to Bethune-Cookman Athletic Communications Department at vcusportsinfo@cookman.edu. That's vcusportsinfo@cookman.edu. And why wouldn't you want to have your business on the CatEye Network? We've got so much more coming your way, from podcasts and wrap-up shows every week and month to live broadcasts of football, volleyball, basketball, baseball, softball, and more. All the CatEye Network is up and running for 2023. Marshall Thundering Herd are also up and running for 2023. They're racing towards another 3-set victory as they lead this third set 16-9. Head coach Ari Aganis at her 5th season at the helm of the Thundering Herd. The former D2 national champion as a player at Kishwaukee College. This is 5 seasons into her first head coaching job after being an assistant at North Alabama, Clemson, San Francisco, and Grand Canyon. And she just signed an extension through 2027 that will keep her in Huntington for a couple more years. She's done a great job with this program, and especially transitioning from a league in Conference USA where they were going, 18 wins, 19 wins, 10 wins in the shortened 2020 season. Of course, last season they went to the Sun Belt, kind of had a rude awakening, 9-16 overall. Marshall continues to block well. Kylie Stokes gets another one.
And you really want to see, this Wildcats team start to figure out, who are we going to be in this scenario? Are we going to, refocus ourselves on the present point, on this one that we can affect right now, or are we going to continue to focus on the points in the past?
Cross-court kill through the hands of Poston, 19-9. 3 points consecutively for Marshall out of the timeout. Spencer across the Conover. Blocked by Stokes. Back to Spencer. Dug out by Samilton. And through the middle, Lydia Montague comes off the bench and gets back in the score sheet. Five points away from getting out of Moore Gymnasium with a win are the Marshall Thundering Herd. At that time, Nyara Hightower wins a nice little contest at the net with Lydia Montague. And Coach Aganis may want a timeout. She will take one.
Looked like Jasmine Parrish took a hard dive there, and they're trying to give her a little bit of a breather.
Bethune-Cookman Volleyball will be back on the 22nd of September as they take on the Alabama A&M Bulldogs to open up their first SWAC cluster. You can catch that game right here on the CatEye Network as conference play begins. As we come down towards the end of the weekend, Taylor, I want to look at all 3 teams that have taken the floor this weekend, Marshall, Bethune-Cookman, and the Citadel. And I want your pick for a player of the tournament.
That's a tough one. I think that the player of the tournament would probably be between one of the, either the Marshall setter or the Citadel setter, Belle Hogan for Citadel or Bryn Brown for Marshall. I think that the way that they were incredibly offensive and very effective in doing so has really opened up their offense and opportunity to really be effective. So I would probably end up going with Belle Hogan from the Citadel, just because they were able to take that win against Marshall in the first match of the day yesterday.
I agree. Belle Hogan just kind of ran both of their games yesterday. Complete domination. She could dump it over, float it up for a hit in any direction. She just completely ran the game yesterday, Belle Hogan.
Absolutely. And you often see that, setters kind of don't get that recognition because they're not the ones scoring the points, but the effectiveness and the efficacy of your setter can really determine how your offense is going to play and how those points are scored.
But for Hogan, she also scores points pretty well. Had
exactly.
a 600 hitting percentage yesterday.
Whew, that is unheard of. That's crazy. She did a fantastic job.
The coach on the court right now for Marshall is Charlie French. He had an interesting summer, was an assistant coach for the New Zealand women's national team as they went to a tournament in Chile.
And Marshall is really attacking this serve. We've talked about how there are a similar number of missed serves, but Marshall is making the best of it on the other end of the ball. They've got a number of aces on the Wildcats right now, so that's kind of where this serving and passing game is being won and lost.
Dump forward from Simmons. Wadsworth blocked at the net by Simmons. Wadsworth again kept alive by DeJesus. Standing hit from Moore. Wadsworth blocked. A.J. Simmons, 3 blocks in 1 play, and the Wildcats are finally back on the board in the 3rd set.
That was a fantastic move by Simmons. She really, got her feet there, dove around that ball, made sure that she was surrounding it with some good, strong hands, and put it right back down on the ground.
Riley Davis comes back in to serve. Scored 22-11 in set number 3. Marshall with the lead. Soft serve received by Hamilton. Blocked by Simmons again. Another half block by Simmons, but DeJesus couldn't handle it. A.J. Simmons has maybe had the best 2 plays back-to-back of anybody in this tournament.
Absolutely. Those are fantastic moves. That's the part of the game, though, is that it's always going to continue. You know that your opposing hitter has someone there to cover her, so you've got to be ready to get back into that game.
Simmons, another one with athletic bloodlines. Her dad was a basketball player at Louisiana Monroe. As Jasmine Moore puts that one through the block and down. ECU still fighting in this one, down 23-12. Here's Nyara Hightower, back to serve. And into the net. Nyara Hightower is the only player that I've noticed this weekend with taped finger joints. Every joint on every finger is taped individually, and I kind of wonder why more players don't do that.
It's a little bit of a comfort thing, so when you do that, you lose some dexterity. Nyara knows that she's not usually going to use her hands to set the ball. She's really focusing on keeping herself safe when she blocks, like that big block from A.J. Simmons. She wants to make sure that if she were to take a ball and it doesn't hit her hands quite right, her fingers are protected from getting jammed. But you'll see players that know that they need to hand set a little bit more, need to have a little bit more dexterity in those fingers, won't really want to have that total tape.
Second solo block of the set for Simmons. And Bryn Brown applies the finishing touch. She heard you say she was not player of the tournament and wanted to end this one on her own terms. That'll do it, 25-13 in the 3rd set. Marshall takes this one over Bethune-Cookman. Marshall ends the tournament at 2-1. Bethune-Cookman 0-3. The Citadel 2-0 yesterday did not come back to play again today. As we end our first weekend of softball, I'm already in the spring, volleyball action here at Moore Gymnasium. Taylor, thoughts on the entirety of the weekend?
I mean, I think it was a fantastic learning opportunity for the Wildcats. I think they brought in some great competition in the Marshall Thundering Herd and the Citadel Bulldogs. They got out there, they went through some struggles, they've had some, came in with some struggles, had a lot of players on the bench, a lot of players that they weren't able to kind of look down their bench to, and that's going to be another adjustment as well, is once they have that full team back healthy, they're going to be able to give people a little bit of a break, and not, force them to work through some of the struggles, but having having to do that is a great growth opportunity, especially for these freshmen that were able to step in, like Sydney Costin and Chloe Conover. They really had, some responsibilities kind of laid on their shoulders, and I think they handled it really well.
Again, Alicia Callender, all SWAC team, not on the floor this weekend. Neither Kaital Price, the returning leader in hitting percentage and second on the team in blocks last year. Essence Bell got hurt yesterday. She did not play today. She was walking around in crutches today on the bench. No really time frame for her return. So this team, maybe the core we saw on the floor, is going to be the core for most of the season, depending on when they can get those players back. And it's important that some of those younger players, like your Postons, like your Davises, like your Alyssa King, can get minutes in these kinds of games before conference play, because they may have to be the ones that step up during league play.
Exactly, and that's the really important thing for them to kind of take from this tournament this weekend, is that even though the result was not necessarily what they wanted, there are incredible learning opportunities from this. So if you can take this weekend for the learning opportunity that it is, and then continue to move forward into these next set of matches, you'll be able to make the most out of the opportunities that you have coming in the future, rather than staying stuck in the past.
Some statistics for you from this third and final match of the weekend for Bethune-Cookman. Marshall, 37 kills to 18. BCU had 15 errors to Marshall's 16. Total attacks, 82 to 76 in favor of Marshall. Marshall hit 256. BCU just .39. Assists, Marshall had 34, BCU 17. Marshall had 10 aces, BCU's 2. Marshall had 6 service errors, BCU had 8. BCU dominated the net again, 10 total blocks to 6, and 7 of those 10 blocks were solo. And Diggs 38 to 24 in favor of Marshall. The Wildcats go on the road now. Next weekend they'll play at the East Carolina Invitational against Appalachian State, East Carolina, and Campbell. They have a long road trip before coming home to start conference play on the 22nd of September. Marshall heads home this week to play Moorhead, UNC Greensboro, Akron, and Coppin State next weekend. And that'll do it for us here. For Taylor Pritchett and our entire CatEye Network broadcast team here at Moore Gymnasium, my name is Michael Travillo. Thank you for tuning in both today and all weekend long. This is just the beginning. We're just getting started with BCU Athletics on the CatEye Network for 2023-2024, and we'll see you next time.